Hello, everyone. I'm Jalpa Vitlani, the Director of Operations of Humans for Humanity. As we're all celebrating menstrual hygiene today, we are bringing you a lot of lives. I think you've been enjoying the day with all of us. Anurag, I just wanted to confirm that you can hear me and the connection is good. So our topic right now is no access to menstrual hygiene is the fifth biggest killer in the world for women today. And we have on board somebody very interesting who's going to join us from UN Women, Nishtha Satyam, who's actually a change maker in the world, especially in India and in this part of the world. So I can see a lot of, our patrons at Humans for Humanity, a lot of people who've been supporting our drives are live with us. Well, menstruation requires so much, safe water, sanitation and hygiene is so important for women. And when women do not have access to these facilities, we find that, there's been a report by World Water Aid where a lot of illnesses have happened due to poor menstrual hygiene, and we've had almost 800,000 deaths around the world, in a single year, making this the fifth biggest killer of women behind heart disease, stroke, and respiratory infections. And it's so important that women have access to good menstrual hygiene. And on behalf of Humans for Humanity, I would like to thank all of you for joining us in this conversation, which can bring a positive change, which can make all of us think, and create a difference for all the people who are joining us live and who will be watching this later. And in this phase, we are not actually able to celebrate Menstrual Hygiene Day in the manner which we'd like to. So we thought it's important, to really connect with you virtually and, discuss, the state of affairs in our country, because we are the ones who can really bring about a change. In the last 5 years, the WASH project, which Humans for Humanity is very passionate about, has actually reached 1.5 million women across the country. And we as a team are relentlessly working on this with the goal of eradicating poor menstrual hygiene and also holding a lot of workshops for women and, basically trying to strip the old age taboos, also the myths around menstruation and the workshops. So I can see Nishtha she's almost with us. She's our special guest for this talk, and she's a stalwart who's doing some incredible work in this area. So we just have Nishtha joining us. I've just accepted her request. Hi, Nishtha.
Hi there.
Welcome on board.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was just telling our viewers that, we are not able to celebrate Menstrual Hygiene Day in the way we'd like, but we thought we must connect virtually. And we are very fortunate to have, somebody who's such a change maker as you. So thank you for joining us in this meaningful conversation. And I was just introducing you. So Nishtha is doing some incredible work. She's the Deputy Country Representative for UN Women in India, Maldives, Bhutan, and Nepal. She's done some incredible work on gender equality, women's empowerment, and she's the youngest deputy country rep for the entire United Nations across, I think, over 190 countries. Is that right, Nishtha?
193. Yeah.
193. Amazing. Okay. So thank you so much for sparing time to be part of this dialogue with us at Humans for Humanity. And, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to let you share some of the amazing objectives and policies that UN Women advocates, in terms of menstrual hygiene with our audience.
Absolutely. First, let me congratulate all of you for coming together at a time that is like this. Even for me, this is very special, and Anurag is very special because this is the first Instagram live or any kind of public interaction that I am doing almost after 2 months of COVID, after being in the ICU for almost 21 days. And then, first my father went into the ICU for 15, then I went into the ICU for 21, for 12 days. Then my husband went into the ICU for 21 days. That was actually a long shift. So actually it is my first day back at work.
Wow. I really don't, but I'm glad you're looking good, and I'm, that your family is well. And yeah, more power to you, Nishta, every way, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for me, like this just moment means so much because it's not just a moment of having come out from the ICU. It's a moment of having it's a moment of having of being alive. It's a moment of believing in the fact life has continued despite the tragedy around us, and a moment of deep empathy and concern and care for all fellow beings, really, because there's no logic of whose house COVID stopped at. And we've lost so many incredible people. I've lost so many dear loved ones in this process that I know that all of us are so harrowed from the inside. And sometimes when we're very harrowed from the inside, sometimes the conversations on menstrual hygiene feel like a conversation that we should have later,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
not the story of the town. The story of the town is COVID, and I'm really glad that we're beginning still, and we a lot of us are still keeping our morale high and talking about gains that we thought we have made. And I think the biggest problem with gender is. You see a pandemic or any sort of a disaster for that matter, it could be a cyclone, it could be anything, you see that the gains that you have made in gender relations are the first to reverse
yes,
because they're so fragile, they're so at the margins of the society already that it doesn't take time for us to go back. And today we're at a point where we are seeing a full-fledged failure of the healthcare system. We're seeing a public health crisis. We're seeing a crisis that's not just a public health crisis; it's a socio-economic public health crisis. And it's very easy to forget and to talk about menstrual hygiene, which has really been a conversation that has picked up in India, that has picked up with government, that has picked up with stakeholders. So the easiest thing right now would be to talk about only things that are top of the mind and ignore these conversations. But I'm really glad that we are stuck at what we are because this is important, and we must not let go of what we have won already. So for me, this is a win of many levels: personal, emotional, professional, and so I'm really glad to be having this conversation and very humbled and very privileged. Now let me give you my own example, and then we'll get to what UN Women advocates for, which is not very different from what anybody advocates for. I was in the hospital, and this is a personal experience. I was in the hospital on, I think I was admitted to the ward on the 20th of April, if I'm not wrong, and the 21st of April I got my periods while I, on still 60 liters of oxygen in the ICU. And I'm not going to say that it was a taboo, right? But suddenly we seem to have every single the ICU. We seem to have every single medicine in the world. We were prepared for cardiac arrests. We were prepared for everything, but
yeah,
we were prepared for a woman having her periods, right? So the one thing when I asked for, where everybody went helter skelter looking for it, was a pad.
yeah. Wow.
And for a moment, I was so surprised. I said, why would a hospital not have a pad at disposal, right? And they got me a piece of cotton and they said, why don't we manage
Yeah,
with this now? And someone said, "Acha, aap apne ghar se mangwa lijiye." Someone said, "Acha, we'll arrange for some." And despite the fact that I was at one of the most incredible hospitals in the country, which is the All India Medical Institute, despite the fact that they were prepared for any sort of tragedy, and the healthcare staff were running helter skelter, the one thing we didn't seem prepared for, which is probably the most obvious event in a woman's life in a monthly cycle, is the period. And to for a moment when everybody said pad, pad, and everybody was looking at each other,
yeah,
from all my work made sense, right? It reassured me that the fact that we're having these conversations as of today is not a futile, is not an irrelevant conversation. We're not talking about a small town. We're not talking about rural. We're not talking about a rural gully somewhere in behind. I'm talking about myself, right? Heart of Delhi. Uh, Absolutely. In one of the largest and one of the most incredible hospitals. I owe my life to doctors and the nursing staff at that hospital. But we are talking about what we prepare for as a country. And that to me is at the center of it. Now we all know that menstrual hygiene is not just it's not just a socio-cultural problem. It is a problem of logistics, it's a problem of administration, it is a problem of cultural connotations, it is a it's part of how we view religion, it's a part of how we view women sanctity and purity, right? And so it's a multi-level problem that has always has always solicited a multi-level approach, right? And I think I'm very glad to say that UN Women, along with with the central and state governments, have picked quite pace on menstrual hygiene. You and I will agree that in recent times we've had more conversations on menstrual hygiene than we have had ever in the past. Now, the problem still is that no matter how much you educate and no matter how much this is both a demand and a supply issue, and we know that. We know that with primary healthcare centers, we know that with shutting down of the one-stop centers, with shutting down of the Anganwadis in schools, the distribution of pads has become a problem, right? And as they say, once you fall out of that habit, the 21-day habit, once you go back to a cloth, or once you fail to insert that habit right when the woman has had, or the girl has had her first periods, we've lost a lot of what we could have gained. So that's why I think the last 2 years have been incredibly important in terms of distribution and reaching out to women and girls, given that most state infrastructure has been closed in the lockdown. I think one of our great points of lobby has been to include services to women as essential services in the country. That's one of the first gains we've done as UN Women, which is to not view this as a frill service, right? Is to see essential for women and their management and their lives and their hygiene and their health. And imagine that is really the first point of lobby still for us. So that's one area. The other area that UN Women is deeply invested in is working with women and girls. Anybody who's worked on this issue for a very, very long time would still go back and say, somewhere when you talk to a rural household, somewhere when you talk to a woman who's not even rural, sometimes even urban poverty is such a complex construct that even when you talk to women in that gap, the choice between a bindi and the choice between a pad, the bindi becomes a very, very clear choice in that income bracket, right? So because the immediacy of infection, the immediacy of the health threat sometimes is lower. So when you go to someone and say, oh, this is going to happen in another 10 years, this is going to happen in another 5 years, you don't particularly see it. We took corona seriously because if you went out without a mask, you'd be sick tomorrow, right? So we're deeply invested in ensuring that we work with women and girls on the ground to make this an effective choice, and to also ensure that we target women when they have their first periods, because those are habit formation years. Also to use elderly women as champions for menstrual hygiene. Those are the three big areas women is invested in. Sorry for the long answer, very short question.
Break the myths also, and a lot of the old age taboos, when we involve the older women, we also engage them in the workshops, because when the mindset of we sensitize the men also in the work that we do, because I think, like you said, it's something which really spills to cross border, to every age, to every gender, everybody actually in and around us.
We see this as a very rural, urban. हमें लगता है दिल्ली में नहीं होता है. I live in Nizamuddin, which is considered to be one of the most poshest areas of Delhi. You go to my chemist and you tell him, "भैया whisper दे दो." He's looking at some other corner of the world, trying to say, "अच्छा ठीक है, madam," and you're like, "Why are you looking there exactly? Look at me. Why?" That black polythene, I don't need it. So I think reforms need to start right there. It's not like the world has changed tremendously. It's not like urban, we're so cool and we've so arrived at something. We haven't. That awkward about, and that taboo on menstruation still exists. We still ask the men of the house to go buy a pad for us because it's still awkward for us to break that, right? And I remember this little story that my mother-in-law tells me. She used to tell me, when your husband was young, his sister and his mother used to send him to the local shop with a parchi which used to ask for a whisper, and they said, they used to put it in a big bag and say, "Padna nahi isko raste mein."
अच्छा.
Isko padna nahi raste mein. And just go get what this shopkeeper is giving you.
Yeah.
And but my own story, being a girl, right?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually I have my periods, and my mother was amply clear about that. But still, I remember when I was much younger, maybe 6 or 7, asking her, "Ab ki bhai ye kya hai jo mujhe nahi dikhate ho? What is this?" And I think a lot of
Yeah.
children do it. And she used to say, "ये तुम्हारे लिए नहीं है, एक time आएगा."
अच्छा. Okay.
एक टाइम आएगा, right? And I come from a very educated household. My mom's a physics, maths,
Wow.
PhD, so you particularly expect this. But education always doesn't trump socio-cultural norms, and we know that. We've seen that. Not because someone's educated are they going to be, more welcoming
Yeah.
of change in particular. So ये लड़का या लड़की की बात नहीं है, उतना ही टैबू मेरे लिए था जितना मेरे शौहर के लिए था बचपन में. आज भी
Yeah.
एक there is an awkwardness, there is an air of silence between the chemist and you. So it has to be handled at that level. It has to be handled at the state level of provision. It has to be handled to bring up kids,
Yeah.
and handled a lot between the two halves of humanity.
True.
And I'm going to include transgenders and the others, but it really needs to be handled people to people, right?
That's
Because that's where the
I think, you've lent such a powerful voice. Actually, my heart is with you. I mean, even when I listen to your experience about the hospital, and then, how you shared about menstruation, and, I was actually going to talk to you about the healthcare workers in their PP kits. And, when I didn't think of it from the patient point of view, my heart is just fully opened up. You've lent such a powerful voice, to this conversation. And, even on a personal note, sharing my first workshop was, of course, with our padman Anurag. And I remember then when I went to Nasik, Nishta, I took my driver and I just started like, a drive, not knowing where I'm going to go. And he's a Muslim, traditional Muslim. And he knew that I'm transporting cartons of pads. And I would say, Yakub, 25 pad do, 50 boxes do. So first I think he wanted to disown me, and then he got so involved in the process. He's like, Didi, kitne pads lane hai, kitne packets lane hai. So, there have been so many men involved, even in the drives, in the work, and even I think sensitizing them in many different ways, like you said, and it's cross-cultural, whether it's in the family. I remember Nasik, we had gone actually for, to perform some pujas. My aunt, who's like a mother figure, passed away. So I said, let me just start the work in her name. And then my nephews, my uncles, some of them joined all the drives. So it was amazing, and how we can reach people in different ways. Tell me, Nishta, as an individual, you're doing a lot of things with UN Women. But what more change would you like to see personally? If there's something which you could just bring about overnight, what is it? Whether it's in terms of a policy or some sort of advocacy, what would you like to see in India?
I think there is a magic pill to a lot of things, but and it's both tragic because gender is a systemic failure. It's not because you and I don't believe. It's because even if you and I believe, there is something that imposes that what we are beginning to change and ways in which we are beginning to change is probably not the right direction to think about. Even if a man stands up and says, "Oh yeah, I'm the primary caregiver to a child and I want to change nappies," there are hardly nappy stations in a men's washroom. I don't know how notice that, but if you go to public infrastructure, you go to airports, I think UN Women has lobbied very hard to now have nappy changing stations at men's washrooms. But even the size of the basic urinal of the child is not in is different in a men's washroom versus a women's washroom, and it's very difficult for a man to carry a child there, right? So you and I may want to change a lot, but public infrastructure has a huge role to play in reinforcing कि नहीं आप चाहोगे भी तो नहीं ऐसा हो पाएगा. Even if the man wants to take the child and change nappies, we will not. It's not something that it's not common. It's not common play. So I think we have to look at it from a public infrastructure and straight provision perspective. The one thing that Corona has taught us is also the resurgence and the importance of the state, right? And I think for very, very long, the civil society, the UN, and many other stakeholders, including the state, have played a part. But the resurgence of the state as really where responsibility has to be owed, has to be accountable, has to be paid, is something that we've seen in Corona, and what it means. So, of course, state responsibility in provision of resources, gender sensitized, gender responsive public infrastructure. I have great faith in great policies, but great policies have to be implemented. There have to be schemes. There has to be a way of implementing that, right? And of course, the third big battle is how do we work with women and girls themselves. But honestly, I'm going to steer away a lot from putting the onus again back on women and girls, because every time we get away by saying महिलाओं को अपनी सोच बदलनी चाहिए, लड़कियों को अपनी सोच बदलनी चाहिए. हाँ, बदलनी चाहिए भाई, बट दुनिया जो है वो महिला के बदलने से नहीं बदलेगी, दुनिया बाकी सबके बदलने से बदलेगी. सो अकाउंटेबिलिटी be pinned where it is owed and where it is where it belongs. I think there's a lot beyond just women and girls, and women and girls also, let's remember, are products of patriarchy. They owe nothing more to the world just because they're women, and they have been groomed just like men, and it is a process. Unfortunately, I can't give you a golden pill answer, but or a silver bullet answer, but that's the truth, that this gender is a process, awareness is a process. Menstrual hygiene is not an isolated issue, right? It is, like I said, a socio-cultural, political, religious, and an economic issue. It's also about the purse. So it's very important to remind ourselves that when it comes to gender, we are looking at cross-sectoral, multi-sectoral responses. And we're, of course, looking at the gender sensitization of the other half of humanity, so that they understand that this is not one of those events that need to be treated like, oh, I don't know what's happening, right? And I'll give you my example at AIIMS. I was, of course, heartbroken that I had my periods while I had COVID. And being on 60 liters of oxygen, which means they're completely taped and you have a high flow mask, and also you're shuddering at that point of it. For anybody who's gone through COVID with that and has had a torrential course will understand that. Usme agar aap periods ho, or you can't wear. My state was that you can't wear one of those catheters where you pee and sorted. I had to get up and clean at my bed. Every single time, right? And hygiene is a very important part, because you're in an ICU, it's high viral load at that point in time. तो अगर आप स्टाफ रेशियो देखेंगे एम्स का, तो आदमी ज्यादा हैं, महिलाएं कम हैं. And at that point, it was very difficult to find someone and wait for that woman who would come to help you clean, right? And in one of those instances, a very nice gentleman walked up and he said, "Ma'am, मैं आपकी मदद कर देता हूँ." तो एक और जो उन्हीं के एक नर्सिंग स्टाफ से आया, उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, उनको फीमेल स्टाफ से करवाइएगा. And he asked me, he said, "Are you comfortable?" I said, "I'm comfortable because I'm in pain. I'm disgusted. I just want to change." फिर वो आया नहीं 2 मिनट, वो आदमी वो जाके खड़ा हो गया, because he offered help and someone came and told him that कल को आप पे कोई हो, या I don't know what they said. They were, one was not comfortable with another making that change. So for all 30-40 minutes we waited for a female to show up, and she didn't, because very few of them, and they were busy in other things, and their patients on ventilators. So finally I called him and I said, आपको तकलीफ है क्या ये करने में? And he said, नहीं मैम, स्टाफ हूँ, मैं नर्स हूँ, मेरे लिए आदमी औरत का कोई फर्क नहीं है, जो दर्द में है उसकी सेवा होनी चाहिए. This is exactly what he said to me. So I said, I'm comfortable as long as you're not, even for me, I said, as long as you're not irked by it. He said, why would I? It's a process. It happens to everybody. My mother goes through it, my daughter goes through it, my wife goes through it, and here's a patient who needs help. So I'm going to jump into this if you're comfortable. And that changed my perspective a lot about his perspective, because until there was this air of silence and discomfort on who's discomforted with it more, right? Yeah. And it was probably a lapse in my judgment, and probably I was more uncomfortable with it, which is fairly so. But I'm giving you a very real life example of what had happened and what it meant to me, and what it means when we have one half of humanity completely understand what it means for the other half of humanity. And I think that's where the big change is. We are a very affirmatively legislated country. we're a highly we're good on policy, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's important as seeing menstrual the provision of services as essential services. Still, when we say essential, we're talking about food and pyaz and tomato and all of that. But what is essential to a woman is so different from what is essential to a man, and I think that basic understanding, really so basic, uh, in policymakers probably will make a world of change for all of us.
Yeah. And when we have stalwarts like you are who are among the change makers, there's a lot of hope. And I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing something so personal and so powerful, Nishta. And when you're talking about essential items, even this GST, though they removed it on pads, it's still applicable on the raw materials. That doesn't really speak much, right? Because they need to understand that this good. We
It all comes back to understanding what is essential and what is not, right? To not seeing this as some frill that women want because they want to be convenient and they want to, I mean, this is not luxury for heaven's sake. So that lens of what is essential and what is luxury, what we need, what is a hygiene issue. I mean, I know sometimes it feels too basic to be talking in 2021.
yeah.
If it is, it is, and we keep talking, and I'm really glad that that's what we're doing here.
And we know that Scotland, for instance, they're distributing, this is, free sanitary, pads to the population. Do you think we can ever imagine that in India at some point?
Well, I think absolutely. I think India is a great country in terms of humanity, right? It's just wonderful to see. COVID was such an experience to see how humanity stood for humanity at a time when a lot of us felt very stateless, to be honest. And when all infrastructure was failing, we saw how people stood up for people. So this is a country of great change. This is a country where people hold up the sky, and anything can be achieved. This is a country where governments have it's a democracy at the end of the day. So it is about people asking. Uh, and I think the power of asking as citizens of one of the largest democracies of the world is power that we still have. And we must learn to exercise it, even if it is not about us. And I think that's where change begins. I mostly we exercise the right of we exercise voice and choice only when it belongs to us, only when it is about us. But we exercise right and choice uh, when it is even when it is not about us. I think that's where change begins to happen, and hopefully we will be there. We're already amidst a public health crisis. My deepest condolences to every single person who's lost a family member or in any degree of separation. It's a time of immense grief. I stand with you. UN Women stands with each one of you, and hopefully this will be behind us. And we will, even if we have to start from the beginning, it's worth the race and it's worth the fight.
Absolutely. I mean, on that note, powerful note, and that amazing sharing, I really want to thank you for your spirit, for your presence, for the incredible work that you do, for your passion, which comes at every moment. And it's as Humans for Humanity, it's really our dream and passion that everybody is going to have free and universal access to sanitary pads, to menstrual hygiene, and we're really part of the journey with you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being here. And to all the viewers, we are at these tough times. And really, Nishta, I couldn't have asked for a more powerful share, even from everything that you've described. You've covered much more than menstrual hygiene today. Thank you for your presence.
It's an eternal pleasure. Like I said, for me, this is an emotional, personal, professional moment because I never thought I'd make it out of the ICU, to be honest. It was that bad. But we all do. Life goes on, the show goes on. And I'm glad that this is the first public interaction that I'm having after having come out from what seemed very, very tragic, and to be speaking about something that's so important to almost half of the world. I don't think I could have spent my time more wisely. So thank you very much.
No,
My pleasure. Bye.